Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Schweitzer, for your assistance. I was also the one who sent you all letters to be here last week, and I apologize to the 15 of you that showed up last week. And I also want to thank whoever's controlling the New Goshen Friends Facebook page for allowing me to become a member. At that, I tried to reach out and I posted the correction, but for whatever reason, apparently it worked for the people that are here, and I do appreciate all of you for being here tonight, taking time out of your schedules to be here and listening to the representatives of Keyrock. From the very beginning, at the meetings I've attended, there's been a lot of questions, and from what I've seen on social media and other venues, there seems to be some misinformation out there. So I thank you all for being here tonight to hear firsthand what the proposal is, how this works, and to answer any questions. Throughout this evening, we're going to have different speakers talk about what they want to do. At any time, if you have a question, just raise your hand and let's get them answered, okay? They're here to answer your questions and to give you information, so there's no point in you waiting. So at this point, I would like to, for everybody to introduce yourselves, what your role is, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, and just an FYI for everybody, if you have a family member that's not here but wants to see this, we are recording this on the Vigo County YouTube channel, so you can watch it. But if anybody's going to speak, try to speak into a microphone so we can get that all on the channel. Yeah.
And I'm just going to introduce everybody, that way they don't have to keep coming up here. But I'm Ben Cox. I'm the land manager for Keyrock Energy. And here we have Bruce Horman. He's our engineer and project manager. And we have Dr. Chu. He's a retired mine engineer from SIU Carbondale. And we have Jason Muncie from Cimarron. He's a representative for the company that manufactures these flare units. And so he's going to talk about the how they're constructed, the safety features, those types of things. Dr. Chu is going to speak tonight on the geology of what we have going on here in these well locations, how that affects the methane production, how that drawing the methane out affects the different layers of geology, and also the water table, the water quality and quantity issues. And so, have I missed anybody? I think that's it. And so, we're going to start with Dr. Chu. He's going to present his information. We do have built-in time periods for questions and comments, and so we're going to address 3 different main issues. And so after he presents his information, there'll be a pause there for any questions or anything that you guys want to talk about. Okay? So.
To those in the back, there are a few seats left up front if you want to come up here. You don't have to stand. Good evening, everyone. You can call me Paul. That's my middle name, and that's how I'm known as. I think some of the faces are familiar here. Okay, good. As Ben has told you, I think we are going to try and present in a layman fashion some of the issues that you may be concerned with. And we have allocated plenty of time for you people to ask questions as we move along. I'm going to go slow. I'm going to try and stop at intervals of several minutes so that you can ask me any questions that you may have. The slide. Oh, you got it? Okay. This is who I am, and I'm not trying to scare you here. I had my MS and PhD degrees from Penn State, and then I was at SIU Carbondale from 77 to 2015. I am a fellow of National Academy of Inventors. I have done a lot of work in the area of rock mechanics, dust control, operations improvement. I've done a lot of work. I have been working with the Chinese quite extensively. They gave me a 5-year contract to help them with their mining engineering education. So I have extensive experience in mine subsidence. I think every project that we have had in the Illinois Coal Basin over the last 40 years, I was involved with it in some fashion or the other, okay? So that's, next please, yeah. This presentation that I'm going to make, it's a collaborative effort between myself and the company professionals. We have been working pretty hard to make sure that everything that we are going to present is kosher. There are no boo-boos anywhere. So I want to give credit to the Keyrock Energy people for being very, very cooperative and giving me whatever I needed. We have involved professionals with very diverse backgrounds: academic, mining operations, environmental, and management, so that we can consider the concerns that you may have. It is founded on a review and synthesis of relevant literature. There is a list of at least about 40 publications that we have listed for you. If you're interested, we'll be happy to provide. We are not making any subjective judgments or claims. So everything is founded on a very, very good foundation. And as I told you, we have a list of literature available for you people to think about. Next. Here is how we are going to run this presentation. I have allocated plenty of time for questions and answers, and I'll stop every few minutes. For the sake of simplicity, brevity, and efficiency, we have put several slides at the back of the presentation in case you want to go into greater detail. And we'll appreciate your cooperation as we move along. This is how we are going to present this matter. We are going to make a goal statement. Then we'll go into background for technical discussion, everything that we are going to say here. Then the 3 major considerations that the company wanted me to address here. We will discuss each consideration, followed by question and answer for each. And then we will have an overall discussion of the project and closure. Next. Here is a goal statement. We are trying to provide a technical discussion of the important environmental considerations for the zoning board to soundly review our request for permitting temporary mining overlay zoning for 5 years at the Green Valley mine. It was mined during 1950s to 60s, and it was abandoned in 1963. The above approval will allow the company to pursue methane removal activities from mine workings in number 3 coal seam, which is the Sealyville coal seam. This represents collaborative effort due diligence effort on the part of the company to ensure that operations will be safe and environmentally sound. And as I told you earlier, I'll be repeating myself, we have diversity of people who worked together to put together this presentation. There are 3 coal seams of interest that we will be talking about. Number 7 seam, which is the Danville seam, rough depth about 190 feet, thickness about 5 feet. Number 5 seam, or the Springfield seam, depth 320 feet, and the thickness of about 4 feet. And then you have number 3 seam, Sealyville seam, depth of about 503 feet, thickness of about 5.7 feet. And we are going to talk about some of this a little bit more. Now, I put in this slide to show you where these seams outcrop in Vigo County. The red line represents the outcrop line for number 3 seam. Then you have the blue and the black, those represent the Springfield and the Danville seams. Okay, next. This basically shows you where the gas wells are located, all right? And the blue point shows the approximate location of the water well, okay? And then what you see is, yes? This is the layout of mine workings in Sealyville coal seam, or number 3 coal seam. Okay. This is at the Green Valley mine. Right there is the water well location. Okay. The next. There is the Springfield coal seam workings. Okay. Superposed on the number 3 seam workings. Okay. There is the Danville coal seam workings superposed on both number 3 coal seam and number 5 coal seam. Okay. Now let's go into some background here. Illinois Coal Basin, it's a saucer-shaped basin, all right? And the deepest point in this basin is somewhere around Benton, Illinois area, okay? The coal seams that we mine within the state of Illinois are Heron coal seam and Springfield coal seam, number 6 and number 5. And number 6 coal, we typically mine around 600 to 700 feet around the quality circle near Benton, where the sulfur content is very low. Now, this is something of interest to you. It shows number of coal seams in the Illinois coal basin, out of which we are concerned with number 7, number 5, and number 3. Number 3 is at the deepest point, and number 5 above it, and number 7 above that. Number 5 seam in, these are the, this is what I wanted to show you here. These seams have different numbers in Illinois and Western Kentucky. The coal basin extends into the states of Western Kentucky, and then you have the Illinois, and then you have the Indiana, okay? Now, as you go towards Western Kentucky and in Indiana, the depth of mining is shallow, okay? For example, the Sealyville coal seam in this area in Vigo County is at a depth of about 500 feet roughly. Okay? One thing that I want to share with you here, our coal seams in this area, they are associated with sandstone channels. And I'm going to show it to you a little bit later on, but let me see if I can come. In some areas, they have cut out the coal seam. Okay? So they play a fairly important role for us in the mining. And we'll talk a little bit more in a minute. Next slide. Now these are the three seams of commercial interest which I told you about. You can see here again the three seams. The important point that I want to bring up here for you guys is that associated with these coal seams we have shales, sandstones, and limestones. All right. The limestones, they are sometimes intermixed with sandstone as well as shales. In other words, they are not pure. Another point that I want to make for you guys here is that most of these rocks are relatively good quality. And I will share with you in just a minute the numbers which tell you the strength of these rocks. Okay? That is an important factor for you people to think about as we go in this discussion. Next. Now this basically tells you the typical mining depth for number 5, number 7, and number 3 seams. Number 7 coal at a depth of about 160 to 190 feet. Number 5 coal about 300 feet, 320 feet. And number 3 coal goes about 500 to 520 feet, somewhere in that neighborhood. I also want you to remember I showed you the outcrop lines for these seams within Vigo County. Okay. Next. Let's take a little look at the stratigraphy of these Indiana coals. Coal-bearing strata of Indiana are divided into 3 major intervals: the Raccoon Creek group, the Carbondale group, and the McLeansboro group. In each of these groups, we have rocks, shales, limestones, sandstones, and they are interbedded with thin layers of limestone, claystone, and coal. Okay. Now here is one hole that goes from the surface all the way down to Sealyville coal seam. Okay. And all the details are there. You can see the limestone, the sandstones, and everything that I have shared with you is there. Next. So what I did was I have tested these rocks for the past 40 years at SIU. The shales have a typical strength of 3,000 to 5,000 psi. Okay. Limestones, they go from 8,000 to 12,000. Sandstones between 5,000 to 9,000 psi. These are typical numbers. You can always have some lower, some higher. Clay stones, they go from 600 psi to 1,500 psi. And the coal, it varies between 2,000 psi to 4,000 psi. Okay. All right. So these are all overall good competent rocks, and the strength typically increases as you go deeper. Okay. Now this is the channel fill sandstones in Indiana, and I want you to see these were basically rivers that were flowing while the coal was being formed, what we call contemporaneous channels. So while the coal was being formed, these channels were flowing through that area, and in some areas you can see the coal has been cut out by these sandstone channels. Okay? So these things do affect our mining. They do contain water, all right? They do contain water, but the water quality is not good, okay? The water quality in these sands is generally not good at all, okay? Next. Now this is basically a well completion report, you know, the data on how it was completed, where the casing was, how did we grout it, the type of cement that we used, all that stuff is there. Next. Again, similar sort of data coming from the people who did the work on completing the wells. Okay. Let's take a look at the water well characteristics. There are no municipal water wells, but there are shallow water wells which are 40 to 70 feet deep. Typically in this area, the soil-like materials are only about 30 to 40 feet. So below that, you have the bedrock, and the bedrock is typically sandstone. Okay? So the last slide that I showed you, it gives you the data on how the wells were completed. Okay? All right? The bedrock surface is about 40 to 45 feet. Yeah, that's okay. Go ahead. Okay. This is again showing the water well there. All right. And as you can see here clearly, you have all the soil-like materials which end at about 40 feet, and the casing was pretty much stopped at about 47 or 48 feet. That is where the well casing was finished.
Oh, this is. I will get you the location here in just a minute. The purpose of showing the information here is just to show how Dr. Chu is able to analyze, just as an example, the different layers. Well, we're not there yet, ma'am.
Yeah, we are not there.
Yeah, this is just background information so that you all can understand how Dr. Chu came to his conclusion on this information. So, but I will get I know where it is on the map. I just don't know the road. So I will actually get you the property owner's name. I thought it was on the log sheet here, but I'll pull that up as he's continuing to talk.
Okay, there is a map which shows the depth to bedrock, all right, and it goes anywhere between 20 to 90 feet. Okay. But this particular well, I think the bedrock was right at about 40 feet. Yeah, there is a map where I'll be happy to get you the map if you're interested. Okay, I found a map which shows the depth to bedrock. Next slide, please. What kind of mining methods were used? Partial extraction room and pillar mining systems were used, room and pillar mining. In mining number 3 seam, the approximate extraction ratio in different panels varies between 45 to 55%, which would be typical for mining at a depth of about 500 feet. I would like to point out here that both the gas wells, they are actually located in slightly lower extraction ratios. They are close to the barriers. And so this is the extraction ratio within the panels. This is not the extraction ratio around the gas wells. Okay. There are some old mines from 1800 that mined the number 7 or Danville seam in the good old days. Next. Yeah, this, again, I wanted to show you these mine workings. And if you take a closer look at they are going to be very, very low around the gas wells area. Okay. Mining was done at a depth of about 500 feet in the Sealyville coal seam with thickness of about 5.7 feet. Mining was easy in most areas with limestone in the roof and floor. In some areas, the coal seam had sandstone in the immediate roof vicinity. Okay. A syncline with a drop of about 50 feet was present in the northern 2/3 of the mining property. The areas of the mine that are flooded, they seem to be in the syncline area. That's what you would expect, and maybe overlain by sandstone channel. Okay. Sealyville coal seam is more extensively mined than the other 2 seams. Okay. One water well that I showed you, it is located about 2 miles from one gas well and 4,000 feet away from the other gas well. Again, this is important stuff for you to know. Okay. Let's take a look at the previous attempts to remove methane gas in this area. First attempts at the mine were initiated in 1993 with 3 holes, and the gas was used to produce electricity. Okay. A few entrepreneurs later assessed the potential to sell methane. However, the nitrogen content in the gas was pretty high, about 15%. And so therefore, it was a no-go. 5 to 6 wells were drilled around Green Valley mine for methane removal. 3 wells of the above seem to be flooded and are currently not producing. Okay. 3 wells are producing with gas pressure of about 45 psi. 1 well may be located in number 5 coal. Okay. Gas composition is about 85 to 90% methane and 10 to 15% nitrogen. Very, very low oxygen, if there is any. The oxygen content is very low. Now, during the gas removal process, the pressure drops to about 30 psi, and if you shut off the well, the pressure builds up back to 45 psi very, very quickly. Okay? Gas production with water pumping has never been practiced. In other words, they have never pumped the water out for removing the methane. So here are the 3 major areas. Yes. But I'm talking about those are from the historical data. Is that in the Sealyville mine? Yeah, see, I think the data that I presented is for Sealyville mine. And I talked to people who knew the Sealyville mine.
Yes, we are not going to do any drilling. That we are only going to be setting up on, if we get the approvals, we'll be on the 2 wells that we have located that are currently in the ground. We don't have any permits to drill at this point. No, none. Correct.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
We don't have that information. The state of Indiana would have that. We're not involved in those plugins.
Go ahead.
Do you have the well ID number for that well that you spoke of earlier?
We can get that for you. There. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, sir, that's the railroad. I'm not sure, sir, but this is just where our. Correct. We haven't indicated that we're permitting for New Goshen.
I can address that. That name, I'm not even sure what that was on the mine map, and I don't know what it was on there for. It has nothing to do. We're not doing anything there. That was just something that was on the mine map. We didn't put it there. It's a historic map.
Forward one.
Okay.
And just so you know, that blue arrow, that's just an approximate. Yeah, that was just an indicator for Dr. Chu to get it's in that vicinity. Bruce is, I understand, sir. It's an approximate location that is based off of the map that we showed earlier. And Bruce is going to get the exact property that well is located on.
Yeah.
It was just for reference to show distance. We can get it for you, sir.
Yeah. All that was for
That's
was
what
a
he's doing.
reference to stratigraphy in that part of the mine.
The purpose of locating it as shown was to get a rough idea of how far the water well is from the 2 wells. Now we can get that for you.
But sir, that's one water well. That is one, opposed to the
And
This is one water well that was picked out of how many?
Well,
That's a very unpractical and,
it wasn't chosen for any reason other than to look at the
No,
geology.
that's not what we're focusing on that well. That was the deepest well I can find on the permitting website.
go to the Indiana DNR's
Yeah, that's where that
website.
came
I
from.
just did. There's ones within a quarter mile or
Yeah,
within 1
yeah.
mile there that are over 100.
Well, that was the deepest one I could find. It was drilled down to, that was drilled down to 300 some feet. It was a test well, if I'm not mistaken. It was a test well.
That is in the area that is about halfway in between both of these well sites. And so that's the only reason it was chosen. So it was it's like a median representative of both of those sites. And Dr. Chu is actually leading up to addressing the issues with all the wells. So we're not leaving them out.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. I think when we have the discussion, I think this well would be a good representation of all the wells that you are thinking about, okay? So just give me a few minutes and I will, okay. Can you back up one slide right here? The first issue that we wanted to address was, can we remove methane from mine voids and not have additional subsidence risk or sinkhole risk? That was item one. So let's go to the next slide. There. Let me kind of share with you that we have two types of subsidence, trough and sinkhole. Sinkholes typically occur when you mine less than about 150 feet. Okay? They are also prevalent when the ratio of unconsolidated overburden to consolidated overburden is high. Okay? Now the hydrology does play a role in the development of sinkholes. Okay? All right. Trough subsidence, on the other hand, it is a more gentle depression of the ground surface. It becomes more like a saucer. When the subsidence occurs, it becomes like a saucer. So the edges of that saucer, they are subjected to both compression as well as tension. So you can see cracks due to tension, and you can also see hooving of the ground up due to high compression. I'm sure you have seen the roads lift up. Those are in the compression areas, okay? So I just wanted to show you this as a background information. On the right slide, you can see the gentle movement of the surface downward. Typically, you do not see sinkholes beyond a depth of about 150 feet. Huh? Right, just like this. Okay?
So when we
Yeah.
built the sinkhole that we have, sinkholes, there's more than one, you don't contribute that to anything that is taking place.
See, I'm going to show you the map here from the U.S. Geological Survey, which shows that this area has what we call karst topography. And some of the limestones, the carbonate rocks, they can dissolve irrespective of whether you have mining or you don't have mining. For example, Tennessee is a good case in point. Tennessee has sinkholes and they don't have any mining. Florida is another case in point, where you have sinkholes but no mining. Okay. Here in this area, I have seen sinkholes around Illinois ever since I came into this
So
area.
you're saying the sinkhole, inside the city, great big changes. You're saying those sinkholes has nothing to do with coal mining?
I never said that.
No, I'm asking you that.
No, let me respond to it with a straight face. At shallow mining depth, sinkholes could have been caused by mining, could have been caused. I'm saying also they could have been caused by the geology in that area, which we call KARST type of geology. They could have been caused by that, and I'll show you the map in just a second. Okay? I'm not saying that they could not have been caused by mining, but I'm also saying that they could have been caused by Mother Nature, the way it laid the rocks. Okay?
So the fact that you've owned that piece of property since 1945 and nothing ever happened until 1994 has nothing to do with what was taken out or disappeared or just happened.
I'm not saying that, sir.
No, I'm asking
Yeah.
you that.
I'm saying it could have been or it may not have been. Okay?
So your guess is as good as mine. The only difference is I've got the hole to put up with, you don't.
Well, I think we do because we have been, I can show you the data from the state of Illinois, the relationship between mining depth.
And I can show you the hole.
I have seen a lot of sinkholes, okay? So that's not an issue. I've seen a lot of sinkholes. I said it is an issue for all of us, okay? It is an issue for all of us to be concerned about. Okay, so let's take a look at first. I looked at the trough subsidence, okay? Will removing the methane from mine voids, will it affect trough subsidence? Okay, we'll talk about sinkholes in a minute. The likelihood of increased trough subsidence happening is extremely low for the following reasons. Number one, the vertical pressure at a depth of 500 feet pre-mining is 500 psi for number 3 coal and 300 psi for number 5 coal. If I extract about 50% coal, the pressure on the pillars, the average pressure on the pillars is about 1000 psi and 600 psi respectively. Now, the gas pressure varies between 30 psi and 45 psi. That's a change of about 15 psi in the pressure of 1600 psi. It is a very, very low change in the pressure due to methane removal. All right? And if I can, Ben, if I can go to the next slide, which this is basically a good way to show you what could be happening. If I put a balloon in a concrete block and I go ahead and change the pressure, it's not going to change the stability of the block. All right? Of course. Yeah, go ahead.
The post-mining, traffic ratio and the pressure on it, what type of color was it?
At it,
On the line that we're talking about right here, for you,
Well, they are giving you, and I can roughly tell you, they probably use 60-foot center to center, roughly. Okay? No, these are actual factual numbers. Bruce computed the extraction ratio in multiple areas. They varied. I am using 50%, but the actual numbers were somewhere lower.
And I can understand that, but I'm saying, do we know what size soils were down there? Not guessing, do we know?
Well, I think we can go ahead and enlarge that. You can get the numbers. We can get you those numbers. But we typically go by extraction ratio, okay? Pillars by themselves don't mean anything. It's the extraction ratio which is critical, okay? So the change in the mine workings due to removal of methane is going to be about 15 psi. Go ahead. The company does not plan to remove any water during this process, okay? It is the synclinal areas which are filled up with water, all right? We do not know whether the mine is flooded or not, okay? We do not know that. But from the sounds of it, it looks like the amount of water in the mines was not large when the mine was being worked. Over a period of time now, how much water has accumulated, I cannot answer that question right now. Yeah. The company has indicated to me that they do not plan to extract any water.
Can I interject there? We've never, in any of our operations, we get water, we don't continue on, yeah. No.
Say it again, please. Well, then, I think he has answered the question. He said if they get water, they do not get the gas out. Okay. To the best of my knowledge, what I know of the project, it is going to help the community substantially to bring in revenue streams. And
We'll address that after Dr. Chu is not here to address that, but we are going to address that tonight. So
let me make one more comment on the water. I was told that when water was coming in the mines, they did test the water, and the quality of that water was very good. That's all I can tell you, okay? I'm just reporting factual data. Okay, go ahead, sir. has anybody tested the amount? Just give me a second. If you have a concentration of methane in water of more than 28 milligram per liter, then the state requires that you take some action about it. Okay. So I do not know this particular situation, but I am telling you based on the literature review, based on what I have read, that if the concentration of dissolved methane in water is beyond 28 milligram per liter, then you are supposed to take safety precautions to make sure that this methane does not bubble out and become a safety hazard. Okay? Well, but but I think you're going beyond my role here. I'm supposed to be basically telling you what makes scientific sense. Okay? Yes, sir.
The microphone.
That's a very, very good question. When you replace the methane from the mine, what you are going to see is additional methane will come out of the coal voids. That's one. Some of the water which is sitting in the coal voids, that will come out. You will also likely, you will increase the nitrogen content even further. If there is no leakage of oxygen into the mine, then the oxygen content will not increase. It would be almost like a nitrogen blanketing. Okay? They used nitrogen blanketing to quench fires in mines, underground mines. Okay? So to respond to your question, you know, coal is basically a reservoir for methane. All right? Now, once some of the methane comes out and it builds up, then you have a back pressure within the coal voids and no more methane can come out. So once you start removing the methane, now the void spaces will start to give more methane out. Okay? So that's basically the process of coal bed as a reservoir. Okay? The porosity and permeability of coal and the temperature, they affect the rate at which methane comes out of the coal. Okay? Yes, sir. Can I make a comment, sir? You see, Mother Nature did not put the geology as a uniform system. See, there are a lot of places, lot of mines where the water is highly, highly, highly saline. All right? I'm well aware of it. All right? I'm talking about the study that I was looking at. There they said that the water coming out of the sandstone channel was drinkable water. Okay. See, geology is site specific and geology is very variable. Okay. All right. Here is the comment that I like to make. Remember the coals in this area, they are very high in sulfur. Sealyville coal, the sulfur content varies a lot. The highest values I have seen are 14% sulfur. It's nuts, but it is the truth. Now, when the sulfur water comes to the surface, it can get oxidized and become highly acidic. All right, it can turn orange in no time. I have seen that with my own eyes. Exactly. But my point, yeah, my point is different. When you have methane and nitrogen, you cannot see that additional oxidation for the water to become. So underground water may not be as acidic as it is once it comes to the surface. That's the main point I want to make to you. Okay? Very important point. You know, I have seen where we pumped the water from underground mines, and as soon as it hit the surface, bingo, it turns orange. Okay? Because you are oxidizing, you are giving oxygen to that water. Okay? All right, so are there any questions on the trough subsidence that I covered? Basically, what I'm saying is the likelihood of additional trough subsidence is very, very, very low, all right, due to removal of methane from number 3 seam. That's what I'm really saying. All right, let's see what happens in the sinkhole area. All right. Again, my assessment is that increased sinkhole formation is extremely low for the following reasons. Number one, mining depth is 500 feet or maybe slightly more, and the sinkholes typically do not form beyond a depth of about 150 feet. Okay, all right. Now, as I pointed out a few minutes ago, we do have geology in this area which could be contributing to the sinkholes. Okay, all right. Now, this is the map that I was trying to show you here, right? Contribute, or it did contribute. I'm not saying that. Okay? All I'm saying is that the geology, Mother Nature gave us the geology which is prone to sinkhole formation. Okay? Okay, previous one, please, Ben, on the sinkhole side. Let me just yeah, right here. The same comments that I made for trough subsidence, I'm also holding them for the sinkhole formation. I am standing behind my assessment that the possibility that you will get increased sinkhole formation is extremely low. Okay? So these are the reasons that I have put together for you people. Next. Supports it Can you go back to the previous slide, please, the map? Right there. I'm also not saying that mining did contribute. Yeah, go ahead, sir.
Yes, you're saying it is extremely low, but it does happen.
It can happen.
To me going out to my truck this morning, not starting, but it does happen.
Okay,
Right or wrong?
right, but just a minute, sir. Let me make a comment on it. There is no project on this earth which is 100% foolproof. Look at the insurance industry.
You're exactly right. So why create a situation that could be?
Well, why do we drive the car then?
Because we have to make a living. We don't make a living off this old ground.
Well, we may not, see, that's not my assessment.
It is mine, look around.
No, that's fair enough. Yeah. Yes, sir.
So with your map there, showing that our area is already mapped and prone to possibly having issues, things like that. And the fact that mining potentially can cause that, do you find that there's an additive or overlapping effect where there is mining beneath a soft area or an area that's more prone to seeing those across? Does that produce an additive effect where you are more likely,
I have not seen a technical paper on the subject.
in your opinion?
In my opinion, it has to be an additive effect. Has to be. All right? Or better, it could be an additive effect. Yes. Next. Okay, the technical consideration number 2 is, can removing methane from mine voids in number 5 and number 3 seams in the mine impact the overlying groundwater quality? Okay, so let's look at the background. Average total sulfur content of number 7, number 5, and number 3 coal average 2.8%, 3.7%, and 5%. Okay? The typical ratio of pyritic to total sulfur is about 50%. And the reason I'm splitting that is because it is the pyritic sulfur which gets oxidized to give you that orangish looking water. Okay? And the other point which I made earlier, the sulfur content in number 3 coal, which is the Sealyville coal, it varies a lot. Okay? So during the mining process, mined coal and associated pyritic sulfur is subjected to oxidation when it hits the moisture. Okay? And it can form acid drainage. Coal mine groundwater may therefore be lower pH, all right, and elevated levels of hydrogen sulfide, iron, aluminum, and nitrates. It may also have high levels of copper, zinc, mercury, and lead. Such water can cause groundwater pollution through mining. Okay, upon mine abandonment, once the mine is abandoned, oxygen levels continue to decrease. All right, you are not circulating fresh air through the mine. And the oxygen that we had in the air, it is being used in the oxidation of coal, so oxygen is getting consumed, okay? And so mine voids which are filled with methane, they have very low oxygen levels, very low oxygen, and they contain primarily methane and nitrogen. Commercialization of methane production from number 3 seams have been inhibited due to very high nitrogen content in the mine atmosphere. Given the inert atmosphere in mine voids filled with methane and nitrogen and very low oxygen, additional changes in groundwater quality would not be expected while the mine is abandoned. It's very carefully written. All right, so as long as you don't bring that water up to the surface, you should not be changing the water quality in the mine, okay? Now, let's take a look at during the methane removal process, when the methane gas pressure in voids is higher than the atmospheric pressure, okay, there should be no leakage of air, oxygen into the mine. So if you are not adding oxygen, you are not going to be changing the quality of water, okay? That is the case in this particular project. The methane gas pressure in voids is typically higher than 30 psi during the removal process. Given the above, the groundwater quality should not change due to methane removal. Okay, I'm coming. Next slide. Let me answer your question. Go ahead, sir. I think.
So Bruce can answer that, but I don't think he was able to hear the question.
Yeah, please stand up.
The question was, are we going to use any mechanism to boost the pressure, or are we going to use the natural outflow of the mine for the pressure? Is that correct? Okay.
Yeah, at this point, we don't plan on it using any mechanized, just a natural outgassing. Yeah, at the current state.
I think they're going to answer your questions as soon as the doctor's done up here. So if we can just get him through this presentation, then you guys can ask the questions.
Does this work? Okay, sorry. And again, I don't think he heard the follow-up question. He does have a hearing issue. So the question was, his answer was, at this point, because there is enough pressure in there to naturally flow, we would not be using anything to boost that pressure.
So the next point is, the earlier slide was on the quality. This is on quantity. Go ahead, ma'am. By about from 45 to about 30 psi. Well, see, you shut off the valve, and the pressure builds up again, and then you reopen it. Yeah. Okay. Now let's take a look at the quantity. Earlier comment was on quality. This is on quantity. Here again, the small change in pressure that I'm talking about over a short period of time should have insignificant impact on migration of groundwater from one coal seam to the other, both ways, going up or coming down, as long as frequency and configuration of joints overlying the rocks do not change significantly. Okay, which they shouldn't. Huh? As I pointed out, ma'am, earlier, no project, I think there is no project which has 100% certainty. Take, for example, last year in Florida, we had a building collapse.
So I can answer, maybe not, I can tell you that we have almost 50 of these sites that are operating. We've never had any sinkhole issues. We've never had any water quality or water quantity issues. What we're asking Dr. Chu is to basically give his own opinion on the data that he has researched over the last 40 years as a mine engineer to give you that information. What I can tell you definitively is that during this process, we have not had any issue with that. And so the water quality and the water quantity could be affected by anything,
Right.
even if we're not here.
Well,
Actually, there are some things that Dr. Chu is going to go into that would actually potentially improve the water issues.
If I could,
That is the hope, yes.
if I could add a comment to what Ben just said, I think the scientific, whatever his experience is over the last 60 wells or so, I think the scientific publications kind of support what he is saying, all right? There is no guarantee. I kind of, insurance industry, it's more like $1 trillion industry. It is basically to cover that risk, all right? There is nothing that is 100% guaranteed. So, yeah. I do not know that. I'm not the one who can answer that question.
Yeah, everybody's saying that's my part. I have to answer that question. So there's kind of a rapid fire there. So like mining insurance, that's not something you would have to get that's related to us. Again, what Dr. Chu is saying is what I'm saying also is no one can tell the future, but I can tell you that over the last 15 years and 50 of these sites, there have been no sinkholes or water issues. And so if there was an issue where your sinkhole, I think I remember from the first meeting, you had talked about, the sinkhole that was pretty large and on your property there. And are you just south of? Yeah, okay. So, yeah, and so there would be a situation where if anyone has a concern about an existing sinkhole, and about in the future that it would become affected by it become larger, then what I would want to do is we would come to each property that has a sinkhole that they're concerned about. We could measure it, we could take pictures, we could do all that, and then document what it is currently. And then over the next 5 years, if there's any changes to it, then I'm the guy you call, and we come figure out how to either fix it, compensate for it, whatever that might be. Right. So. But that's okay. What I'm telling you is based on the 50 sites that we currently have operating, that won't happen. So.
Hey, I'm curious to ask the people that have reported sinkholes, have you reported it to anybody in geology and?
To the state? Are you talking about to the state, Bruce?
Yeah, to the state, yeah.
No, what they do is the state would actually come out and research any sinkholes and see if they are related to mining or if they're related to something else.
Yeah, I'm sure they'd be interested if you haven't brought it to their attention.
Nick?
What he's saying is that no matter if it's here or some other location, that the removal of the methane is not going to have an impact on subsidence or sinkholes. And it's because of the scientific data that he's talking about, the pressures, the PSIs, and the extraction rate of the mine, and the support that those columns are providing. And I believe there's also some information that he shared with me that I don't know if it's in the slide or his slides or not, about the other layers that are above. So we would want to remove methane from the number 3 seam. And above that are geologic layers of limestone and other hard rock materials that are actually going to be a major benefit to making sure that that doesn't happen also. So.
Go ahead, sir.
I understand you say something happens to a water line or a well,
Mhm.
where you have to have a sinkhole or have to do those probably take care of it.
Yes, sir.
What years do you have? You're gonna take care of it. I don't know.
No.
Let's say 5 years. I'm not calling you fired. Let's say 5 years. You represent that group.
Yes, sir.
Like this doctor here, you represent the
He represents,
No, I am
Himself.
actually representing myself and all of you, okay?
I don't know. I mean, I've dealt with turbines and everything else. I mean, if I got 30 people who tell me one thing, I guarantee you, my, another 30 people will tell me something. So I mean, I don't trust no one.
Okay, let me make a comment, sir. Illinois Mine Subsidence Insurance Fund was created for this reason, okay? But I'm the point.
when I
I'm-
say I'm going to take care of it, when we meet with anyone that has a concern and we have documented the issues and something changes, then that's when we work to figure out what the solution is to that. I'm sorry? Then you don't have to worry about anything happening. Mhm.
So some of these questions are for you in particular, as far as so I don't know how long we've got left.
He's got a few minutes. Basically, the water quality and quantity is what he's addressing, along with the sinkholes. And so then, these are the answers to the sinkholes and to the water quality and quantity.
I have a question for you. I have a question for you.
Sure, go ahead.
How deep are the wells methane wells?
Well, they're a little over 500 feet.
Okay, and all the wells are at 100 feet? You have these for that? So you say you're gonna help them by taking the methane out. We're gonna take the methane out of the water. How's it gonna migrate back?
Okay,
So I'm just saying, I understand what you're saying about it being different layers,
Yeah.
but I don't see how it's gonna help them by taking the methane out if you're not keeping that level.
Yeah, I can address it, Dr. Chu can address it. Earlier on, he showed a well drilling application. These wells were drilled, permitted by the state of Indiana. They are steel casing with cement backing to protect their, that's why they have permits to protect the groundwater.
exactly,
So, yeah.
What I'm
exactly.
saying is, I know you're saying you're protecting groundwater from pulling out. You're saying you have an argument that you're going to help their groundwater by removing the methane of water. Am I wrong?
It could, and I'm going to touch upon that. That's the next item.
But if their wells are 100 feet, and you're pumping
What he's going to address is, what he explained to me is that methane will migrate up from the mine. So if we're taking more methane out of the mine, there's less methane migrating up to the water table.
There you go.
Is that,
No, it could improve the quality slightly, but, you know, nothing that we can guarantee. We can share with you the process, the scientific process that is going on. But in this particular case, the migration of water from one seam to the other seam to the surface is going to be very low because the change in pressure is very low. Only 15 psi pressure change. Okay? There was a, yeah, go ahead, sir.
So, looking into like scientific methods, is it more likely that methane will travel upwards, or will it travel through the path of least resistance, which would be through their combustion chamber?
Okay, everything moves through the path of least resistance.
So it wouldn't necessarily directly always go up and up on the
No. The only thing that is promoting that is because CH4 or methane is very, very lightweight, so it wants to migrate up. But if there is a horizontal layer where, you know,
what Dr. Chu explained to us was that, to speak to that, what you just said, sir, what Dr. Chu explained to me was, if there is something pulling more methane out, which would be the flare, then it has less likely the ability, because it is lighter than air, the path of least resistance is changing. Rather than going into the water table, it's going up into the flare. So, okay.
absolutely. Yes, sir, go ahead. No, you go first. These, I have seen it at another location, not at their location. Yeah, I have seen it. Yeah, but see, if you were uncovering the gob pile, that's likely to happen because you're exposing the large surface area in which the pyrite is there. That's not uncommon at all. Huh? But if you were covering it, then the cover material itself may have quite a bit of sulfur in it. If I could add a quick comment, I know we are running out of time. If your cover material was not tested for sulfur content, then that was the project mistake. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think it's very important that the scientific, all facets of science must be covered.
Hey, Dr. Chu, I think it's important, the stratigraphy slide you showed, all them little rider coal seams,
Yes.
the shallow coals and stuff, your wells are located in, going through all that strata with all them rider coals, you know, it's not
Right.
at the 500-foot level we're at, and it is not uncommon. In Illinois, Franklin County, you can't hardly get water because it's cold country. You know, I mean, it is not uncommon for the problems you're seeing.
That's right.
Yeah, I've got an aunt that lives 90 miles south of Chicago that lives in cold country. You know, it's old cold country, and you know she's got sulfur in the water, and it's the stratigraphy. You know,
Yeah,
nothing
I
to
think-
it wouldn't even mind under her. But no, I'm not going to say that. But yeah, but I mean, you know, it's not uncommon to hear what you're saying in your water.
That's right,
Uh,
exactly.
Yeah, my dad drilled water wells for almost 50 years, so I've been around water wells.
Okay, the next slide, please. I should be done in about less than 5 minutes. Okay, can removing methane from mine voids impact the water quality by quantity in shallow water wells? Here is my technical discussion. Your water wells should not see a change in the quality unless you are seeing more trough subsidence. Okay? You should not be seeing a change in the quality or quantity in your wells unless you are getting additional subsidence of the trough type. Okay? And since we have said that we are not expecting any additional trough subsidence, so I would say that your water wells should not be impacted. All right? Okay? Okay, next slide, please. We have had question. Next, last consideration. This is an interesting one, and it will answer some of the questions that you people brought up. Methane may occur in a water well due to natural conditions, or it may enter a well due to human activities, including coal mining, gas well drilling, pipeline leaks from landfills. Okay? So mining is not the only variable that you need to consider. Methane gas alone is not toxic and does not cause health problems in drinking water, but, but at high concentrations, it can escape quickly from water, causing an explosive hazard in your in your home situation. Okay? So if the gas seeps into confined areas like your home, then we need to be concerned about for our family. Okay? Next. Now here is the Penn State study. There are two major studies that have been done. One was done by Penn State and the other by US Geological Survey, where they looked at 239 water wells. Not one or two, but large number of them. And they basically found that only about 2% of the wells had concentration above 28 milligram per liter, which is the threshold level for you to be worried. Okay? Only 2% of the wells. Okay? So again, it's not that it cannot happen, but the likelihood of happening is very, very low. Now, here is another point that I was trying to make to you earlier. U.S. Department of the Interior Office of Surface Mining suggests that if the concentration of methane in your water exceeds 28 milligram per liter, you should take immediate action to reduce its concentration. Okay, next. Next slide, Ben. Yeah, right here. Removing the methane from mine voids with or without water should theoretically tend to reduce the amount of dissolved methane in water. Okay? So from that point of view, you are improving the quality of water only scientifically. Okay? Only scientifically. However, releasing methane into the atmosphere without flaring and destroying the methane can result in unsafe environments around the wellhead, as well as increased emission of GHG into the atmosphere. Okay. Next. Any further comments on anything that I have said? Yes. Right. Right. Okay, I think there was one study. Look at the Penn State study. Above and less. No. Just a minute. Prior to any drilling, I can look up some studies and I can report back to you. Yes. Yeah. Other comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
We have currently, it's over 45, almost 50 sites. We're just trying to address the concerns and show you that what we are doing is according to what we have currently, and based on what Dr. Chu and other professionals are assessing, is that what we're doing is not harmful. Well, what happened before is a different process than what we're introducing. Okay. All right.
Who's paying for this? You guys aren't doing this for people. Somebody, is this a program that's a government program that pays for this and picks it up? Does the property owner get a monthly check, a yearly check? What's the property owner get out of it? We get nothing. We get the whatever happens. Is he getting paid for this too?
I'll try and address that after he's done, and I've got some information on that. So.
How's it going out?
I'm sorry?
Pipelining it out?
No,
Are you
it's
gonna truck it out?
no. I'll explain that in I have a short 5-minute presentation that will explain the process. Right.
Thank you. Thank you. You're most welcome.
So this is Jason Muncie. He's with Cimarron. He's going to explain a little bit about the actual flare systems.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity. As Ben stated, I'm Jason Muncie with Cimarron Energy, Regional Sales Manager. I've been in the oil and gas industry since 1997. Specifically on the coal side for about the last 7 years. We've got, well, we'll show in a later slide, but we've got over 80 devices deployed throughout the U.S., predominantly in the Appalachian Basin, Illinois, Indiana Basin as well, where units are located at. Cimarron Energy is basically, we're an emissions control company. Our motto is, our goal is to provide and create a cleaner planet through our products and services. So anytime, any questions, again, feel free. I'll try to be brief as possible. Bear with me, I'm not an engineer. I'm a history teacher by trade originally, but never actually taught. I've been in oil and gas since that time, so I'll do the best I can. When we get into specific, yes, sir. Yes, sir. We have a line of 10 Quad OA certified enclosed combustion devices. Those are standard devices. We have a litany of additional devices that are custom made. But predominantly, Keyrock has AB200s. I don't know, they haven't purchased units from me for these sites. I don't know what unit they'll deploy at this site. Really quick, we'll talk Quad OA combustors. Quad OA is just, it's the admissible limits allowed from emissions standpoint as defined by the EPA. All of our Quad OA certified combustors are equal to or greater than 95% destruction efficiency. So the destruction efficiency, removal efficiency is based on the constituents that are going into the device, is the percent that we're removing out of that to keep them going into the atmosphere. We do provide temperature controlled units. We do provide insulated units. We can provide air flame cells. These are some safety features. We'll get into those a little bit more in detail as we move along. Understanding the differences between active and abandoned mines. So Cimarron ourselves, we are not an operator. We are just a solutions provider. I gather the information from the customer, this customer being Keyrock. They give me that information. We provide them, this is our best technology for your application. So when we talk about an active mine versus an abandoned mine, really the only difference is for us as an equipment provider, or there's some additional safety features that we include in our product on active mine sites. And those are additional flame arresters and some additional monitoring. Emissions guarantees, we test those units based on the Quad OA certification, which does not really apply to these, but we are achieving destruction efficiency rating equal to or above the 95% VRE. I'll touch, yes sir. Methane and other constituents that are within entrained in the gas stream. We'll touch a little bit more on that part. Some things will not burn, some things are not combustible. Emissions guarantees, we'll touch on that again here in just in a moment. The advantages of our product line, bear with me, I can't really see these. Typically the AB200 that you referenced earlier is an enclosed unit. It's not a visible flame. We have, as I mentioned, 10 different lines. So Cimarron is a mixture of 6 different companies, all under the same roof. We're based out of Houston, Texas. I'm the regional sales manager for the Northeast, but the Northeast is kind of backwards. Everything east of the Mississippi River is basically that it touches upstream, midstream, and biogas, which we classify coal as biogas. That's kind of what I'm responsible for. So kind of touched on, I have a little chart here that shows the different devices and a few highlights about each. Legacy Cimarron units, they have air flame cells and insulation. Additional temperature controlled Legacy Cimarron units also have flame cells, personal protection shield. Again, it's based on, we size the product for the application that is provided, the information that's provided to us by the customer. Yes, ma'am. It varies. When we test those for Quad OA, that's not a criteria that we have to test as noise. So based on what I've seen in the field, using different monitors, we're anywhere from a non-insulated unit can be upwards of 58 decibels. An insulated unit is anywhere from 55 below, depending on where you're at in the stability of the combustion and the pressure range that is seeing at the burner tube.
Yeah, I actually have a video that I'll be pulling up after his presentation that has that.
How close were you? Do you know how close you were to the unit? Was there any other equipment on site other than the combustor that you were aware of, compression or anything? Yeah, that's typically what it is. Yeah. Again, I'm not an operator. If they operate 24 hours a day, I'm assuming they do. Yeah. Yes, sir. a couple 100 feet away, a site I was on recently, we were at, I think, 50, 52, 53 decibels with the measurement that we had.
Like I said, I'll pull up the video so you can hear it after he's done with his presentation.
Yeah, again, I'm not an operator. I can't. We don't test to that criteria, so I can't. She had a question. She had. I'm sorry. It's part of my required company PPE. Yeah. It is.
Sure. So I understand. Have you been at the first two prior meetings? Okay. Sure. And we made a presentation, and I'll be hitting that again. The goal in bringing in Dr. Chu and Jason is to give them, the people that have asked these questions already and that have brought these concerns to us already, and to address those, not just that Keyrock is saying it, that the people that are in the industry that are not gaining anything from this are, yeah. Well, he has just a few more minutes, and I apologize it's taking so long, but we wanted to provide as much detail as possible to answer all the questions that may come up. So he has a few more minutes, and then mine's just a few minutes also.
All this is to me is if I want to buy this product, he's here to sell it. I don't want to buy it.
What he's going into also is some of the issues that have come up in the last two meetings on safety and how they actually work. And so I can sit here and tell you all day that a flame's not going to come out of the top of this, or smoke's not going to come out of the top of this, but this is coming from the people that manufacture these.
We've got thousands of these in operation. Me personally, since I've been here since 2017, I'm not familiar with any blowing up. I do not provide that. We do provide it, but not to Keyrock. Yes, sir. We'll touch on emissions factors, what's coming out the end. Yeah. Any questions specific to emissions guarantees or rates? My email address is provided here, and I can give you my phone number as well. We can talk in depth with our engineering. Again, I'll be more than happy to address those, but I'll give you my information. I think you had the blue shirt got another question? Back there? Okay, thank you. If you want to, Ben, you can go to the next slide. I think we touched everything there. Again, these are just some of the different offerings that we provide. This is a recent site. This is a temperature controlled device. It has adjustments for air. It's temperature controlled. It's a steady state. It's 99.999 in destruction efficiency rating. Emissions guarantees are provided with those. We offer different packages with those skidded systems. We can go to the next slide. Again, this is just highlights that same unit. You can go to the next one. Again, another offering that we have, limited air adjustment. There's flame cells that are extra safety features that are provided with this unit. You can go to the next. Yep, I'm sorry. I understand it, and he can. We have out of the 80 sites that I've not been to all those 80 sites. Out of the sites that I've been to, had a very few that have had a noise issue. He'll highlight some of that with the video with you, but I've had several that are very close to home. Yes, I think this lady back here was actually first. Yeah, they haven't purchased those units from me yet. That's why. So I don't know, but it would. I think they're intending to buy something that's similar to this unit right here in this photo. Yes, sir.
Did you already have one of these units in operation on the south side of the building, right there on Highway Boulevard?
Yes, they do.
And you say that there's no problem with noise from that one on the south side?
No, I have no complaints or anything on that. And matter of fact, we got a video of it running, so if you want to see it. And another thing, that's not the same technology that we're going to use up here.
I'm sorry, sir. We couldn't hear you. Sorry.
Yeah, not there. That was across the road, and that was way before us. You know, this site just got put in.
Your side is
It's-
on the east side of 41, right there where it comes back together, right? Where the runaround and 41 comes together on the south side of Sullivan, on the east side of 41. That's yours?
Yes, correct.
And you say there's not been a fire problem there or a noise problem?
None that I'm aware of, no.
Pardon
But
me?
do you know of any?
Yeah, I was there Friday.
Okay.
Not to monitor sound. We do not sell. I apologize, I misstated that earlier. We do not sell anything that monitors sound currently. Oh, yes.
So does that have to have, internet, wire, does that have to have
It can work through self-service, through SCADA, through satellite or SCADA, through different ways. They have satellite. So I'll tell you, bear with me. I'm an old hillbilly from the head of a holler in eastern Kentucky, come out of the coal fields, and I've got places where the hollers are like this, and you can't get cell service. We get communication with those devices. And I think you.
Jared, do you want to explain that, Jared?
So built within the code, there are already industrial performance standards that outline decibels, noise, yeah. So sounds as far as decibels, light, things of that. The industrial performance standards still apply.
So I think you guys are maybe a little bit more familiar. I think you specifically are familiar with the AB 200. The unit that they are quoted, that I'm quoting to them, is substantially quieter than the AB 200. I don't know if you don't. I know I don't have. Yes, sir.
The government's gonna bring a stop date on the gas stove in the house, how can you put it
That's above my pay grade. I can't answer that one for you. I'm sorry.
You didn't lay off the right big.
Safety features, I'll touch on those quickly. Again, flashback protection from waste gas, flame arresters that are sold with all of our units. Flashback protection additional is air flame cells that prevents anything from flashing back if an operator or someone standing close to the unit. Insulation or heat shield for personal protection. The skin temperature, the skin of the outside of the units, an insulated unit is drastically reduced as opposed to the stainless steel units. We also use thermocouples in the combustion chamber to monitor those temperatures at all times. If it exceeds a high temperature set point, the unit will shut down. I'm sorry? They operate anywhere from in the frame of 900 degrees Fahrenheit to 1800 degrees Fahrenheit. Inside the chamber, again, it's an enclosed system, so there's no there's no radiation from the unit. So it's inside the chamber at the flame, and we want combustion to happen as close to the burner as possible, which helps eliminate some of the sound and noise issues. Yes, sir. Yeah, he just told me just a second ago while I was standing up here. I think I've quoted him maybe 8 units. So, yeah, he hasn't. They haven't. The majority of the units that they have on abandoned mines are units they've purchased from me throughout the years. The BMS system is a burner management system. Again, our devices, our combustion devices, they are, my layman's term, they are just really large gas propane grills almost to that, if you want to equate it. A UV scanner, FireEye. Again, we're using a small propane bottle to feed the pilot. Once we have proof of pilot and proof of flame, we shut that off. We monitor that flame with the UV scanner. If the flame goes out for any reason, the unit shuts down to keep from any waste gas, residual gas being introduced into the system, creating a safety issue. A shutdown valve for high heat protection, high temperature protection. Again, that's a customizable setting. The shutdown valve is included part of our standard packages. We also offer oxygen analyzers, flow meters, knockout drums, and vent skids. The knockout drums handle produced or water that falls out in the gas stream. A general description of operation, I'll try to be brief with this, man. I don't know if you have something specifically on it, but basically we're operating at, we want to see no more than a pound of pressure at the burner tip. When you start exceeding more than a pound of pressure, the unit is not as, it doesn't operate the way it's intended to operate, so we monitor and keep that pressure within a certain defined range. Usually it's 3 inches of water column to 11 to 12 inches of water column. That's what that's operating at. Once we see that it's above, say 3 inches, for example, is typically what we see. Once they're above 3 inches of water column pressure to the unit, and we have over 30% methane and less than 10% oxygen in the stream, the unit will light, go through its process, and start combusting. If high temperature is met or a low temperature set point is met, the unit will shut off, the shutdown valve will close, and the unit is in an idle state. Once we see that 3 inches of water column, the unit will kick on. It'll sit there and operate as long as there's nothing that, no upset condition that shuts the unit off or causes it to fault. That's really a brief, general description. I don't know if Bruce and Ben, if there's anything else.
I'd like to add to that also on all of our, we have check valves in place, so that's a additional safeguard.
Yes. Again, it's just a simple formula for what's going into the unit. If you have any specific questions on this, feel free. My email address is provided at the end. And I can give you my phone number as well. You can direct those questions to Ben and the Keyrock guys. I can get those answered back for you. Not an engineer. The emissions calculations are not my forte. Yes, sir. So water column is just a pressure reading, so it's almost like ounces. Yes, of gas. So it's very minimal. I think, and Dr. Chu, Bruce, you guys correct me, but what, roughly 27 inches of water column is 1 pound of pressure, positive pressure. If you want to go to the next slide. Not anything that I'm aware of. Expected emissions, again, NOx, 0.08 pound per MMBTU of gas. CO is 0.1 pound MMBTU. That's just an expected based on what we've seen performance of the unit. We look at each one, at each site on an individual basis. They provide those numbers and we size the unit based off of that. So that's just a general average. I can't recall what the sites, what the MMBTU, what the flow rates were. Yeah, I can't recall specifically what those were sized for. I don't have that quote right in front of me. Again, the methods for emissions rate determination, we can go through those. We're just going to the next if you want. Cimarron enclosed units deployed. Again, we have over 80 units deployed in the coal space. I've been working on those predominantly over the last 7 years. Those range from Colorado, Pennsylvania, Ohio, West Virginia, Kentucky, Illinois, Virginia, Tennessee. I don't know if I left out any state or not, sorry. And then we have thousands of those units, the same type of units deployed through upstream oil and gas, midstream oil and gas, downstream oil and gas, and biogas opportunities throughout the world. Again, my email address is there. And if you want, I can provide you a phone number after the meeting. I didn't put it on here, but I can give you a phone number as well. I appreciate your time. I understand your, yes, sir. No, you're fine. Uh-huh. So we provide solar packages for these units, or the customer themselves are providing either grid power or generator power. That's not part of our scope. So we have different alternatives that we can provide.
Like on the unit, to run the unit, you know, without a blower, solar power will run everything.
Correct, yes. But that, oh, so, yeah, sorry. So, yes, there are some that are, we have some on airport property, some that are close to home, some are in remote areas. I mean, it's a litany of devices. I couldn't give you the exact, I have no idea. I've been on some, you could throw a rock to, again, so I've seen. Yes, I would be, and it's not. No, I'm laughing because I actually have another customer that's not Keyrock that has approached me about property I own in Kentucky and asking if they can install a device on that, and I'll be happy to have it because I know what is being removed from the atmosphere. No, but I have family that lives there close by. I'm sorry.
What's the reason you buy country property? Is it having peace of mind?
Yeah, I understand.
We all want here is peace of mind.
I understand. Again, I'll do everything I can to answer any questions for you. Odor has actually removed a lot of cases from these that I've seen. Anyone else, I appreciate the time and the questions. Thank you again. My email's up there if you'd like a phone number to call me. I'd be more than happy to talk to anyone. So, Ben, I don't know, Bruce, anyone else? Any questions, comments? Thank you.
So this will take just a few minutes. Yes, sir. Hmm? Sorry. Yeah, go.
Hey, I can address that real quick, but we definitely will not be removing any water from them wells in this process. You know, you can write that down.
I'm going to go into a little bit of that. We're a very highly regulated with our permit and also with our getting verified credits, which I'll go into. We don't get paid unless we meet certain criteria, and so that's something I'm going to touch on real quick. Okay. Yes. Yep. Okay. Mhm. Mhm. The 5% is not methane. It's other substituents contained within that's mixed in with the methane. I'm talking about what the unit is. So we can burn 100% of what's going through that based on what Jason's units are able to do. And so I'll actually address that again a little more in detail, what you're talking about. Mhm. Right. So so what's being released into the atmosphere naturally, you can never quantify other than they're sending up. There are currently satellites that they have all worldwide that are actually measuring the amount of methane, and it is exponentially growing over the last few years. And so they are scrambling to send up satellites to actually measure the amount of methane that is laying on that level 1 atmosphere. It's not going to go anywhere. It's staying there. And so what this program actually does, the government and other governments have implemented programs to burn that methane to destroy the methane before it gets into the atmosphere. So what we're releasing into the atmosphere is approved, but it's also methane is, I'll go into it, but methane is 80 times more potent as a greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And so, you can agree or disagree with that, but that's just what that's the reasoning behind what the program was set up to do. Okay. Correct. But I think not my reasoning, but the reasoning behind that is that there are things that, like trees that can process carbon dioxide, they can't process methane. Methane just goes up and stays there. And what it does is, I'm sorry? Okay. It does, but if it continues to be replenished without being burned off, then you get an exponential issue. But it continues to make it. It is. No, just nationwide. Sure. It could be, yes. Well, like I said, you can't measure it, you can't smell it, you can't see it. And so you have methane in your water, right? So it's being released somehow. It's migrating up to or into from another coal seam into your water. So water actually can hold methane, but methane can be actually removed from water. It will actually, anytime water is agitated and stirred up, methane is released out. So anytime you turn on a faucet, there's methane coming out of that water and going into the air. So that's just an example, okay? There are other voids in the ground that are releasing methane that we can't see, and we can't smell, and we can't quantify. It's all over. Well, it is broken. That's why the government says we need to take care of this because of. Well, that's. I'm sorry. No, there is a cost involved. There is money involved, and so, you know, we I can't speak to depreciation of value. What I can speak to is that the methane that is in the ground that is causing problems to your water, that is causing. You don't. What do you mean? I understand. No, I'm saying the current issues, not. Okay, that's fine, and you can take that up with. Right. And that's exact. So all we're here to do is to present the information, and it's up to you to make a decision on how you feel about it. Okay. Yeah.
I want to, hey, Ben, let me interrupt you a second.
Hold on, just. I don't personally. Okay. I don't have that projection, but what I don't know is like what their process was or what protocol they were actually operating under to get credits. So, yes, Larry. Correct. Well, you talking about the surface owner that the well is located on? The property owner, any property owner that we put a site on, any property owner that we put a site on is paid from us, not the government.
Excuse me, folks.
It's varied.
Excuse me. Folks.
Well, it varies, so.
Folks. Folks, please, just a second. We've been here for 2 hours and 15 minutes. Could we just let the gentleman finish his presentation, and I'm sure he will answer all your questions. Okay?
Just for the benefit of anyone who wasn't here for the last couple meetings, just there are questions about Keyrock. Keyrock was created in 2011 as an oil and gas company, and in that same year we acquired the DTE methane resource assets in Southern Illinois, which we called the Corinth Project. And that's where we collected abandoned mine methane from approximately 15 mines and had 50 plus miles of pipeline. In that area, the coal mine methane was collected and treated in a processing plant. That's a different process than what we're talking about tonight, but just as a background. In 2014, excuse me, the Corinth project began generating carbon credits under the California Air Resource Board protocol. So that was in 2014. In 2018, Keyrock commissioned its first flaring project, which is what we're talking about tonight, as a flaring project. And in August of 2018, at the abandoned Wabash mine in Illinois. And now currently, we have 25 mine methane projects set up on, and the number's actually gone up to almost 50 now since I did this, on active and abandoned mines in the U.S. We have 12 active mine flares and 32 abandoned mine flares. And Keyrock generates nearly 80% of all mine methane offsets in the U.S. So currently in the market, we have about 80% of the market. And Keyrock operates mine methane capture sites in accordance with CARB, which is the California Air Resource Board. And they're just the ones that set forth the rules and regulations based on what the government has provided. And so just a quick answer to why destroy coal mine methane, going to your question, sir. Methane emissions are an unavoidable product of coal mining operations. Methane is released from the coal seams and strata adjacent to coal seams as coal is removed. And then the coal mine methane is not generally suitable for pipeline sales unless it's treated, which is what our Corinth project does. Mines continue to emit methane into the atmosphere for decades after cessation of mining activity. The destruction of mine methane generates emissions offsets or carbon credits. So the answer to the question is, why do this? We are destroying the mine methane to reduce the greenhouse gas, and that produces a carbon credit, which is sold. And so multiple programs exist for livestock, forestry, ozone depleting substances, carbon sequestration, and the one that we're involved in, which is mine methane mitigation. The largest emission offset program in the U.S. is the California Cap and Trade program. And this program recognizes mine methane destruction projects like ours and is developed under the California program, and we have to strictly comply with all multiple township, county, state, and federal regulations. The mine methane emission offset projects are audited or verified annually. And so the verification is a very detailed review of all project documentation, legal rights, regulatory compliance, all for local, state, and federal. They go through all of our operating records and our project, even our equipment. And the verifiers are independent bodies that are unaffiliated with us or with the project operator. The Mine Methane Compliance Offset Protocol was adopted in 2014, and it is just a way to quantify greenhouse gas emission reductions associated with the destruction of methane, which is what we're doing. And so the purpose was to quantify the greenhouse gas emission associated with that, rather than it be vented into the atmosphere. And the protocol has specific rules for mine eligibility, depending on whether the mine is classified as active or abandoned per MSHA. And all monitoring and measuring equipment must be maintained and calibrated with less than 5% accuracy error over the lifetime of any project. You know, some of what Jason had showed earlier, these are some of our current sites, just the footprint that they take up. And so I want to get to, so this is an actual video at nighttime when they're operating. And that light is actually from the camera. You can see the bugs flying around there. This one was, Bruce, you remember? Yeah, near Wren Lake in Illinois. Oh, I have a sound one. This one didn't have it. I've got one coming up. So do flares, we, yep. That's not a, no, the top of this, oh, sorry, let me go back.
That's just illuminate.
No, yeah, there's a heat trail, but there's no flame or smoke. No, you can't see that in the dark. That's the light from the camera. The ones we're going to be putting up are insulated. So. Hmm. Um, Another question we get is about wildlife, the effect on wildlife or impact on wildlife. The pin on the right is a flare location where we have actually, is it 5? 3? 3? 4, okay. We have 4 flare stacks. And then the pin on the left is an eagle's nest location. These are just a few pictures. And the one on the right, I know you guys are going to think that's photoshopped or brought in, but that was actually taken by one of our maintenance guys at the flare site. He had sent it to me, and I don't know, I thought it was a really amazing picture. But it's about a half mile, and well, I'll show you some other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Ben, I'd like to add to that. I tried to send you the other day when I was there. There were 2 adult eagles and 2 adolescents flying right above it. I did it on my phone, but of course they're little bitty. They were right above the stack.
No, but it was there. But the eagle question actually came up in the first meeting, so I was just addressing it from that standpoint. Okay. So here, this is at one of our sites, and there's deer bedded down. This is not uncommon. Well, I hope so, for all you trophy hunters out there. So I'm hoping that the sound will actually come through. I don't know if our technical guy is still around. Yeah, this is actually one he sent me. Oh, you mean well, what I'm saying is I don't know how to get it on the sound here. Yes. I don't know.
Controls for the flare, it's not.
Oh. That's what I'm trying to play for you right now, is to pull that up.
Yeah, he's trying to get the audio.
Are you guys aware of any sound that may come from this? I can actually pull it up on my laptop too, but no, this is the unit that we would be putting in, I believe, is going to be quieter than this one. Well, it would give you a worst case scenario, which is pretty substantial. No, the audio is not working, but I do recognize the bunny running across the drive right there. So I can. I would not expect that to happen. So no, I mean the evaluation. Try it again. Yes, correct. It could, but it's a wasting asset, and so it could last 3 years, and it could, yeah. hmm We're required to deconstruct it, and there's a reclamation plan for that, and I believe that includes plugging the well. Is that correct? So we would actually pull all that off, reclaim the property, and then plug the well. Okay. With methane, I don't know. Yeah, but if let's say it floods out with water, it's replacing the methane. The methane can't come out, like Dr. Chu explained. Yes, sir. Correct. Yeah. That's correct. Yes. Uh-huh. We would have to have someone come in, a third party. Typically, what I've done in the past, for one, from Keyrock standpoint, there's never been a subsidence event or a sinkhole event. If there were to be one, what I've done in the past in the coal mining industry, when I worked for a mine that actually does longwall mining, where you have planned subsidence, sometimes you have subsidence that is unexpected, outside the mining area, and it was a pretty simple process. The state geologists come out, even if it takes drilling down in that specific spot, all the way down to the coal seam. We would drill, look at all the different layers, at what level they were, the compression ratios, and see they were able to determine actually where it failed. I hope not, but what I can tell you is from what I can tell you is that in my 15 years of working at a longwall mine, once the ground subsided, there are longwall mines that have been longwalled for a few decades now, and there has been no claim subsidence whatsoever. No, I understand, and it varies. I mean, Mhm. Yeah, that's correct. But what I'm saying is not necessarily the standard of what happens according to the government. I'm saying what happens with Mother Nature and the geology in it is that mines that have been mined out for 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, when that subsidence has occurred, there is no more subsidence.
Hey, Ben,
So,
a good example of that Dr. Chu's familiar with, and you ought to be familiar with, the Corinth gas plant that we're talking about, it subsided. They took that plant down, set it up, and it's been operating for how many years since then?
yeah, it's been over 20 years since it's been subsided, but this one also had video and audio, and I assumed, sorry. That's peak, yeah. But yeah, that could be from closing the car door, and it peaked. And honestly, folks, I really wish that this was playing. No, actually, they're not. This one here, the video I have of it is actually. I'm sorry, I will get to you just one second. It's actually below the 60 decibel level. This one, and we won't need compressors. Am I correct on that, Bruce? On this site, we won't need any compressors. So it'd actually be probably half of what this one there is, probably half of what that one is. How long have I been doing this? I've been with the company for 6 months. Well, maybe. No, I'm going off of what this is. I understand that, and I have all the respect in the world for the people that have been in this community, whether it's been 1 month or their entire lifetime of 80, 90 years. What I'm telling you is not an opinion. What I'm telling you is based off what the scientific data shows, based off of what Keyrock, not myself, but since 2014, we have 50 of these sites that have gone in. Not one case of a sound disturbance, not one case of a subsidence, if I was misrepresenting Keyrock in this way, it wouldn't be hard for you guys to find articles or litigation or anything out. Yes. I would say what Corinth, not Corinth, the up at Wren Lake. Up at Wren Lake has had up the mines around Wren Lake. They've had significant amount of sinkhole activity prior to us coming in, and we're pulling out a large amount of methane there, and there are no new sinkholes, there are no water quality issues. So what we had talked about earlier was that it will be removing methane from the ground that is potentially hazardous to your homes, to your water wells. It's
I got in, this, even in the first meeting, the newscaster, the news clip that went out on that, it labeled us as drilling wells. I gotta just make clear, we're not drilling any new wells.
yeah.
That we're using existing wells.
Ma'am, I think he heard something. He has trouble hearing. He's got hearing aids. No, sir. No. Yeah. That's a good theory. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I'll get to you in the back. Go ahead, sir. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Correct. Yeah. And that is from that site. The units that will be putting in will reduce that even more. And so, well, yes, sir. Actually, they're trying to. The government's trying to get rid of cows, actually, and stoves.
So you mentioned that, you know, if we wanted to look up information to eliminate, validate what you said, or kind of thing, why doesn't Keyrock have a website?
That I can't say. We don't have anything to sell.
You're trying to get us to buy into something from a company that's been in existence since 2011. Really a very heated topic, especially with locally. There's no website to go to validate your claims that can tell us what we're looking to validate claims.
No, what I'm asking you to do is, if you are to validate, I don't think I actually asked you to validate it. That what I'm saying is that if what I'm saying isn't valid, then there would be news articles against us. There would be litigation against us. You know, noise complaints filed. That's what I'm saying. It will come up. Yeah. And the good news about us you won't find on the internet. The bad news, if there is any, you will. Yes, ma'am. It's just they all get fenced in. That was just part of the process when the picture was taken, maybe part of the construction.
Yeah, well, it depends. What you don't see there's a big perimeter fence and they're locked,
Yeah.
you know, in certain sites. And
Yeah.
the site down at Sullivan, it's going to be fenced in, the contractors, but the landowner, he's fine with it, so.
Yeah.
There's a gate going in that's locked.
Yeah. So
Hey,
the question is,
I'd like to
sometimes
add
it's a bigger area that you don't see the fence around it, that it's fenced in.
Yeah, I'd like to add that same software that you've seen showing the decibels, I recorded what we was doing here, and it averaged about 76 decibels just in talking in here. That just gives you an idea of what it is.
Yes, sir. Right. Thankfully, our decibel levels will be much lower than that. Well, I understand. I understand. what I can tell you is that what Vigo County has put down, we don't have any. Yeah. Related to water quality, related to sound complaints, we have zero litigation. Current, I don't know of any in the past. No, I'm saying that currently there is no litigation against Keyrock. That's correct. I can probably actually tell you further back than that, but.
And again, that all goes back to the verification process. If we get any kind of fines, penalties, or anything like that, it kicks out the carbon credits.
So if we were to have a lawsuit even filed, they could shut down the program. Okay. Yes, sir, in the back. Correct. And the air quality permit, we actually, when we filed, we were actually found, I believe, to be exempt. Is that correct? So we didn't even have to get an air quality permit because what we are emitting from these stacks, these flare units, doesn't meet the minimum threshold to receive an air quality permit. I'm sorry? Yep. Right. Right. Correct. What I'm speaking to is, no, I understand. I'm not negating that. I'm just saying, according to the state, we don't even have to, we're exempt. Not only do we get one, we're exempt from it, an air quality permit, which is different than, an EPA or the Oil and Gas Drilling Board.
And you still have to apply for them, and they
Yeah.
look at our emissions. But,
No, we still have to do that. I'm just saying that the state doesn't require us to have a permit. We actually still have to do that in order for the verification process to take place. And they can shut down their program if we're not verified. Yes, ma'am. Actually, we've never had to go through this process before. So, and I respect that. So I understand. And I hear you loud and clear. I'm giving you the information that I have, and it's up to you. Your questions have actually been great, and we appreciate them. And hopefully that, if we do continue to work together, then we get to know you more. Yes, sir. It's different companies. I'm not sure what they're in trouble with, or I'm not sure. It's different companies. I don't know them specifically. Yeah. So, yes, ma'am. I would assume power companies, manufacturing companies. Well, I don't know,
Hey,
actually.
no,
No, I actually know the process of how to get the credit. I don't know what happens after that.
yeah, well,
I said I don't know that process. I know, yeah, well, that's what I just explained in how we get the credits. We burn the methane, and it gets verified by a third party in so many tons, and that converts to a credit. And so companies out there want to buy carbon credits, and so we sell them to them. I'll get to you just in a second, Larry. Go ahead, sir. that, yeah, yeah, thank you.
They
That's
basically
probably-
offset the pollution they make by buying these credits.
Yeah. Go ahead, Larry, you, I think, was there another one over here? I'll get to you in just one second. Okay. I can't tell you personally, I don't deal with that, but I know Dr. Chu and Jason don't know that conversion, but it's basically so many tons of methane in that 1 year period. That's verified by the auditing company. I don't know how they convert it to tons of carbon credits, but then there's and every market's different. So I'll go to Larry and then to you. Okay.
Almost 3 hours.
Yes, sir.
I'm down to one thing. We've been through this, we know. We're gonna kick this football around. They're gonna make the money, we're taking the chance. That's all it comes down to. That's what I'm asking the commission. This is the one man's problem. Let him get a Honda and a paper out.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
My question is, you want to get rid of this methane,
Yes, sir.
why kill it? But my point now.
Right. So the protocol doesn't allow for that. So well, I'm not denying that. I'm not denying that, ma'am, that it would be good for the community. What I'm saying is that the program for the carbon credits doesn't allow for us to put it into a pipeline like that. And that's not Keyrock's decision. So, any other questions?
Yeah, that's a whole nother story. It'll require, like a facility like our Corinth facility with,
Treatment
it removes, it removes the
Nitrogen.
it removes the CO2, it removes all the other impurities out of it. I don't think you want that.
And I'll get to you just one second. I do have some, you had asked about, sorry, you in the black shirt there. You had asked about that study about the post. I actually found an article that talks about that. And I will be glad to take down anybody's information after the meeting and send that information out, and actually any other information. And then right behind you, you had it. Mhm. 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 How? Mhm. Right. Right. And it's terrible now. Right. I get it. And Mhm. Well, we're not going to hurt it. That's the point. No, I'm saying that there is, based on what Dr. Chu has seen, there is the potential for it to help it, but it's not going to hurt it. Well, that's the strongest point that I've heard is the concern over the water. So. No, that's not. No, that's not what we said. Sorry. Mm. No, we've never. Okay. Yes, sir. Go ahead. I think they're actually. I'm not. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a,
I think Bruce knows about that.
there is a severance tax that we have to pay to the state of Indiana. They get, like, I think 2% of whatever we produce.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about that.
It's usually trickled down from the state, just the same as our gas taxes and stuff. It all goes to Indianapolis and then it comes back to our community.
Yeah. Y'all listen. Yes, sir. Go ahead. No, we have not drilled any wells. These are 2 wells that are existing, and we purchased the wells. I think we have drilled on people's property, but we have no intention of drilling here. And if we did, we would have to do this again.
Yeah,
So,
I just came from a site coming up here that we're drilling a 730-foot well over in Illinois. So, and these wells are not cheap. They've got to adhere to all the state standards and everything. They're very expensive to put in.
yeah. So. Mhm. No, sir. No, we're not allowed to do that. Yeah. Again, folks, I'll be here. I'll be glad to take down your email, your phone number. I'll send you any of the links and the articles that I have, and I'll be glad to share my contact information with you. Guys, I know this it took a while, but just want to get as much information out there as we could. And, yes, sir. Mhm. It's not. I don't even know it. But what I can tell you is we may have one site that is producing, a little bit, and another site that's producing a lot. And so it can change from week to week, depending. We've had some sites that Bruce has told me about that 1 week it's producing everything you can get out of it, and then the next week it's gone, and so it's just a really highly variable and a wasting asset, and you never know exactly how long until it's wasted. Correct. There would be, but that's not information that I'm allowed to have. So, yes, sir. I don't know that.
We can't. One thing, the limiting factor is the flares themselves. They're only a X MCF. Jason could address that.
Each individual flare of the unit that we're talking with Bruce about is 320 MCF per day. Yes.
Gas analysis?
Not only with a handheld testing unit, a MX6, that it tests for oxygen and methane.
The BTU per cubic foot, do we know that?
I can give you some calculations on it, but I don't have it right now.
Yeah. 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 And listen, y'all, I'm not here to try and say who's right or who's wrong, and I appreciate your all's opinions and respect it utmost. I mean, I come from the country. I know what it's like, and grew up there with the pond and the woods and shooting turkeys, and so I'm not up here to try and pull the wool over anybody's eyes. We're giving you the information that we have, and I just want to say appreciate you all coming out, and I want to say a big thank you to Dr. Chu and to Jason. You know, they actually put a lot of work into that information, and I, you know, Dr. Chu asked me a lot of questions, and it was information that I couldn't always answer, but he found a way to figure it out, you know, based on his research. And I respect all of you for coming out and giving us your questions and thoughts and concerns, and I just want to say thank you to these two guys for taking the time to do this, and to the commissioners, thank you. And Richard, do you have anything you want to say? Thank you all.
So, you know, I do a lot of these type situations, and this isn't the first time I've had a room full of people come to something and not necessarily like what I'm trying to do. So I do applaud, as Ben said, thank you for being here. You know, I can't stand here and tell you a year from now what's going to happen. I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow. And since I'm being recorded, I will just keep going and not make a comment there. But what we do have here is a situation with Keyrock. They're in this business, and they're going to make money. They wouldn't be here, you know, they wouldn't be here if they weren't going to make some money. How they're going to do it and sell tax credits, people want them, need them. They're going to create something. There's a market for that, and that's the way our world works. You make something somebody else wants, and you try to sell it to them to make as much money as possible. There's going to be a couple property owners that make some money on this deal. That's just, that is the world we live in. To have the rights to the minerals. Yeah. I misspoke. So here's what we do. You know, ma'am, I appreciate you being here, but I'm trying to speak. You've interrupted everybody here tonight. I would ask you not to interrupt me. Well, but that's not, when you start to speak, that's not asking a question. When you raise your hand and I say, ma'am. So what we do know is Keyrock has been in business, and this is what they do. I've been to a lot of these meetings where people hold up news stories or litigation. I haven't heard anybody say, well, you know, Keyrock, when they were doing this in Southern Illinois, they got sued by the homeowners because their water went bad, or their house sunk because of what the process they were doing. Keyrock has a clean record. Keyrock is heavily regulated. During one of the slides, it mentioned California rules. And what that means is that the federal government says, here are the rules. This is what you can't do. California, you can make those rules more strict. You can't make them less strict. So if the government says you can do this, California says we're going to make it even worse. And they're following California rules. And California rules, when it comes to energy, when it comes to government regulations, is the most strict, I would say, probably in our country. So they're following those rules. And if they don't follow those rules, they wouldn't be here tonight, because their ability to do this process would be removed from them. But they have not violated any of the rules that they are required to follow. As a result, they're here tonight, like they've been in 50 other situations, to do this process. And I want to thank them for being here tonight, providing the information. I want to thank all of you. I believe it's always best when you get that information firsthand. Admittedly, I didn't understand some of it. But what I do know is, they haven't been sued because they caused water damage. They haven't been sued because of sinkholes. There isn't litigation out there where there's been they have not been found to have done anything wrong. If that had happened, I can assure you their permits and their ability to do this would be removed. So I would ask you to take that into consideration. And if you can find something out there, I've done some searching. I can't find it. If you can find it out there, I would love to see it. And I want to thank you all for being here tonight, and please be careful going home.
I just want to remind everybody that we will vote on this on June 20th at 9 a.m. June 20th, Tuesday, June 20th at 9 a.m.